I was asked at a local real estate event the other day, who my real estate mentors were, and who did I have when I first started, who did I follow, who sort of got me excited by different, sort of aspects of the real estate business. So I gave a quick answer during that meetup, but I wanted to take a time to record the video because I thought it was a pretty good question, and it was fun to think about. So again, I think real estate mentors are key. I think there's so many different aspects of the real estate business that it really does take reading or researching or watching videos to really figure out what niche or what area you want to play in. So I know I've read, well, certainly over 100 books. Some written as far back as the 1960s, as you'll see one of those mentors here in this talk. But I do think mentors are important. I also think you can learn something from everyone, whether it's something you like or something you don't like. I think both are equally important. I'm going to go ahead and list out my five, sort of give you a picture, and then sort of talk about who they are and what they sort of meant to me. And then again, just sort of close with what I look for. All right. Um, so I think real estate mentors are important because real estate, frankly, is not new, right? It's not a new business. Um, there have been, at least in the Americas, property owners for hundreds of years. And thus, you can really, if you, search and dig it out, you can really find out, what real estate investors were doing during the Depression, if you wanted, and what changed after the Depression. And, my review of it, was really financing that really caused that to go on longer because real estate we had very short-term loans, back in the Depression days, and so you can really get different traits and learn different things. There's lots of ways to play this game, right? This real estate business. So I think it's important for everyone to sort of look and feel what's made for them. I think there's often constraints we all have. It's either time or money, right? It's typically that spectrum, right? You have lots of time but no money. You have lots of money, no time, right? So where are you in that? So finding a mentor that sort of fits your areas is always nice. I think there's a famous quote. I think it was Mark Twain, but I could be wrong. It said something like, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." So this is something I've believed since we first started, and that's why I researched the S&L crisis. That's why I researched what happened down in Southern California when all the military bases closed, because I was trying to figure out, what were the dominoes that fell, and then more importantly, when the dominoes started to stand back up, what did that feel like, right? Because if you can sort of get a sense when the market's bottoming and turning, you can really do some special things. Real estate cycles aren't new. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. And if you can start to get a feel for how people prospered and frankly got hurt in past cycles, it may give you a better chance of not being hurt or profiting greatly in the next turn of a cycle. Again, I think it's important to learn what you like, but just as important to learn what you don't like. And you'll see some of that when I go through my various mentors. I don't think, I'm certainly, going to be wrong on this eventually, but there's really not a lot of new ways, new things to do. There's always new financial instruments. There's house hacking and, renting by the rooms and all that stuff. But frankly, people were boarding people back in the 20s, right? It wasn't called house hacking back then, but people took in boarders all the time, right? Day rentals, very common, right? It's just called something different. So understanding what all that looks like and understanding, what worked and didn't work is always interesting. So my first mentor, um, this is it was really this book and one other which you heard me talk about, Robert Kiyosaki. The whole idea of your house is not an asset, frankly, was game changing, and his sort of approach in these early books was, very interesting to me, and read it several times, given it out as gifts to others, just because again it sort of changed that mindset. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then the one that I've read several times was the whole notion of retire young, retire rich. Those were a couple of books that I sort of dug in, and I think I've purchased 7 or 8 of his books. Never done a class or his education. I think he sort of veered too far towards the guru path, which is uncomfortable to me. But I thought some of his early books were very helpful. It really did change my mindset and really look at understanding what it would take to have true positive cash flow, because for most of my life I was always talking about net worth or balance sheet or hey what is this mythical number hanging over my head for what I'm worth? And that's just not important. And he helped change that mindset. He also pushed affordable rentals, which I thought were interesting. It's something that I frankly hadn't thought of when I got started. I always thought you would buy a rental near where you live, and he really helped change that mindset for me. And again, just to close up, as I think he veered popularity, right, best-selling books and all that stuff. I think he started selling his name and doing gurus type things, and that got uncomfortable and really stopped following. But in fairness, he does get credit for helping me start thinking differently, and I'll always owe him for that. So mentor number 2, this is the one that I still sort of follow. He often goes by the name of Fixer J, right? Jay DeSima. He's written several books. Here's just one of them. I really liked his approach because he sort of stayed in asset classes that I could see myself buying, affording. He really talked about using houses as investing in a gold mine. Houses is another one of his books. I've read 3 that you're going to see. The one on the right, Start Small, Profit Big. This investing in gold mine houses, and then really understanding that you can go and get multiple houses on one lot is really pretty powerful. He is very clearly focused on affordable housing. He's always talked about being a landlord, never did fixers. He's just wants that positive cash flow. Was the first one to introduce the whole multiple houses on a single lot. Frankly, I never even heard of that. I'd always thought one house, one lot. But back in the 40s, 50s, it wasn't uncommon for people to build multiple small houses on a big city lot. So those are often things I look for. Also, he was the first guy to talk about sort of owner financing. He introduced the concept of, hey, these old ugly lots with multiple houses on them are hard. Banks don't want to finance them, so get the owners to finance them, right? And that's it's an interesting idea, and it really sort of opened my eyes to what's really possible if you can get some owner financing out there. And again, as you see here, he sort of talked about a plan and sort of one at a time and all of that. So I really liked how he introduced his 2-year plan, at least in this book, and he's always talked about just go get the next one and go get the next one. So definitely a mentor of mine. Number 3 is Bruce Norris. He has written some books, none that I know of that are published. He's done some self-published and some PDF downloads. And if you go to his company, the Norris Group, I think you can find them there, or just Google them. I think the first one he wrote was something like From Food Stamps to a Millionaire, or something like that. And I met him actually a couple of different times. Of the mentors we've gone through, this is the first one I've actually met and shook his hand. He started investing with nothing, right? He talked about being on food stamps in that first book, and he went in the buy-sell business and got very good at buying houses below value. And I think he says he made more money in 3 months than a full year's income when he first got started. So he's very, very good at what he does. The thing that makes him unique is he's very data driven. He's kind of a data junkie. And charts, he's often jokes around about charts. But he's really looking to understand what data kind of precedes or is maybe the first domino to fall. Because he often tells the story about how he got stuck with some custom homes at the wrong time. And he really wanted to understand why that happened to him. So, and he's still putting out work today, to this day. So he's a great man. He's been sharing his opinions for years, so you can actually go out and look and see what he was saying 5 years ago. And he talks about the California crash, and he talked about a California comeback. I don't know, something like 2001 or something. So it's always nice to sort of go back and, all right, what did you think? So I really admire that about him. The big thing I got from him was the affordability index. Right, this is the thing I often talk about being sort of the canary in the coal mine, at least for me. Right, the affordability index basically states what is the what percentage of the that area can afford the home, right, the average home. And for me, it's when anytime it gets below 20, it's sort of like a yellow flag, and if it gets to 15, I'm potentially liquidating. So these are just things to watch out for, and everybody can have their own kind of thing to watch, but I think you do yourself a disservice if you're not watching closely and seeing what's going on in your market. The other thing is he was California based. In fairness, he's very Southern California based, at least in the beginning. But again, he was California based, so it was very interesting to me. And then again, he was one that talked about market cycles. And again, these are things that you would think are obvious in the beginning, or obvious if you're experienced, but I never thought about it, right? I thought, real estate went up forever, right? And he's really done a great job of painting, no, there's really been market cycles for decades, and here it is, and this is what happened, and all of that. So he's the one individual which I've actually paid, hundreds of dollars to go see speak, actually a couple times. So really like what he has to say. This one is William Nickerson. He's at least the first book that I really found about a full-time employee that used real estate to retire. Of all my mentors, this is the one that kind of felt like me, right? He was a full-time employee. I believe he worked at the phone company, and he used rentals to eventually retire. And funny thing is, his first book was How Did I Turn $1,000 into $1 Million? It was actually written in the 1960s. And I actually purchased a copy of that off Amazon for a couple $100, just to read it. So, I haven't found many people that wrote books like this, hence why I wrote mine. But again, it was nice of him to do that, and very appreciative, and really showed me that working a full-time job and buying rentals can lead to financial independence. Yes, and again, he worked full-time at the phone company, and just kept buying rentals. He did a great job of documenting his story. Again, the book was written in the 60s, at least the one that I read, so the numbers are kind of wacky. All right, he's talking about 18,000 and 32,000, but again, the rents are equally low, like $100 and 125. So as long as you can get by that, I love the book, and I've read it a couple times, even though it's rather thick. It was a good read. He did a great job of showing how time is on your side if you buy it right and just hold on to it. I really appreciated that sort of feeling, like you don't have to be in and out of this like a stock, like your stock trading. And again, he just started small with houses and just kept rolling, right? And just again, when I read the book and I sort of researched it, just felt like, this was finally a book that was written by a full-time employee who retired. So I was very appreciative of what I read. So last one, Tony Alvarez. He goes by the REO Mentor, I believe, and he's a great guy. I actually met him as well. He actually he actually met me in Fresno one time during the crash. He was a great guy to meet with. Really appreciated his time. Actually, I think I was interviewed by him years ago. It's probably out there on YouTube somewhere. He was the one that really shed the light on me that I was doing the business wrong. He is a very relationship-driven guy. He's this huge teddy bear, great guy to talk to, very friendly, and really showed how having relationships will take you a lot farther than some analytical spreadsheet. And he's absolutely right. Real estate is such a people business, and yeah, sure, a spreadsheet may get you a deal here or there, but if you really get to know people and network over time, deals will just find you. I owe him a lot for that sort of just realization. The other thing about Tony is he was in and out of the business, and he sort of bought at the bottom, used Bruce Norris to tell him where the peak was, liquidated, thought he was done. Real estate market crash, came back in, built up his empire again, and I think if he's not completely out, he's probably half out. So he's using the real estate cycles to his advantage. The other thing he did I thought was interesting is he bought cheap stuff and self-managed. I talked earlier about understanding what you can and can't do. This is something that I know I can't do, right? I know I can't self-manage. I'm 2.5 hours away from my market. Have no interest in doing any of that. But hearing the stories and appreciating what he's going through, because he sort of lived there, and now I think he's moved to just north of the California border in Oregon. And near as I can tell, he's enjoying the fruits of his labor. So really great guy, and really thank him for all the knowledge he's given me over the years. So I want somebody that's what I look for is somebody that's been in the business and sort of documenting their history, not sort of spouting cute slogans and trying to sell me education stuff and upselling and all that nonsense, right? I think in the the video and internet world, it's it's just, if you're willing to tell me what you're doing and your opinions, even if you're wrong, I got to respect that. If you're trying to give me a little taste and a tease and trying to upsell me, I think that's silly. I do like somebody that's been through one cycle. I think what we're about to see is a bunch of people that in the last 5 years got maybe, we're lucky, right? It's easy to make money in a seller's market when it goes up 10% a year. But if you can survive a down cycle, now you got my respect. And again, I want to hear what they've done at the top and the bottom of the market, right? I don't need to hear about everybody, buying, first part of a seller's market and selling something every, 6 months and then eventually, exiting. Because when the market turns, then what'd you do, right? Some of you are going to go bankrupt because you held on too long and you got hard money loans and they're just too expensive and they want their money back, and it could get ugly. So in the end, I want to hear what worked and didn't work. And again, I want to take away something, right? If I'm going to invest the time reading a book, I want to understand what I liked and then what I don't like. I think both are interesting. So that's what I look for in a mentor. So in the end, if you have some mentors, I'd love to hear who they are. Go ahead and leave a comment below. Maybe there's somebody I haven't researched yet I should check out. I think we're up to 188 subscribers, so I'm trying to crack that 200 mark. So if you can help me and subscribe, that'd be great. Hit a like button, send this out to friends, and of course, if you have any questions, my email is at the bottom of the slide. Have a great day.